Okay, so this is Eman from Eman Academy, and this is Mr. MIAM, Mr. Muhammad, the teacher, as you can all see here. Mr. Muhammad has been teaching IELTS for more than 10 years.
That's
right?
true.
More than
That
10
is true.
years, right?
That's true.
That is true. And you've had amazing results with your students.
Alhamdulillah.
I have had the pleasure of working with you for over a year now, and the feedback that I've gotten from the students is just unbelievable. Alhamdulillah. So I can tell you with all confidence, Mr. Muhammad is the best person you can actually have as an IELTS teacher who's going to guide you, inshallah, ta'ala, to get the band that you actually want. Okay?
Thank you.
Without further ado, I'm not going to be a big part of this. I'm only here to welcome you guys, and Mr. Muhammad is going to be giving you all the details of everything that you want to know about the IELTS exam, inshallah, and how to get the score that you want. And inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, at the end of this session, we are going to have we're gonna have you guys ask your questions. So please, if you have any questions, okay, just write them down and make sure that you don't forget them. So write them down, and at the end, inshallah, we'll give you time to unmute yourself and ask the questions that you want, and inshallah, we'll give you all the details that you would like. And also, just for the information, we are recording this session, so this session is going to be streamed, inshallah. But after before you guys start talking, we're going to stop the recording. Okay, so don't worry if anybody doesn't want to be like recorded or anything, you're not going to be, inshallah. Okay, so we're only going to stream this after we stop it, and we're only going to stop it after Mr. Muhammad is finished and before your actual questions. Okay? Yeah, if you can hear me and if you can understand everything that I've just said, please write down the number 1 in the comments below. That would be great. Excellent, excellent. We've got lots of ones here. Mumtaz, mumtaz. All right, so I think I'll give it to you, Mr. Muhammad, to have a wonderful time with your students.
Thank you very much. The introduction was just so amazing that I don't even know what to say right now. First, I want to thank you very much, Miss Eman. Since I've known you, everything has become nicer. Fil alam. Allahumma barik. And so I want to thank you and Eman Academy, of course, for giving me this opportunity to showcase the MIAM IELTS course to the world, basically. So thank you very much for that. I want to say hello to everybody who's here. I'm trying to admit everybody in because there's people, mashallah, they're coming in. And so, I want to say hello to everybody. My name is MIAM the teacher. That's what they call me, MIAM the teacher. I'm an English teacher. It's a very, very long list of things that I do, but for the most part, what I do is I teach English, and I'm also an IELTS specialist. You can call me a specialist, basically. I have been doing this for close to 11 years now. So it's been a minute. It's been a minute. And as Miss Iman said, what I do is basically I help people get the band that they need. Now, some of you who have joined us here have taken the exam before. Others have not. That's okay. It's okay. You're going to get the information that you need. If it's your first time, welcome. You're in safe hands, so don't worry. You're amongst friends. And if you've taken the exam before, then hey, you know what I mean? Hopefully you're going to get some information today as well. Now, there are many things that we want to get through basically today. We want to understand, what the IELTS is, get the essential information. Basically, we want to understand some tips and tricks here and there. So I have a lot on my plate right now, but I'm going to try to fit everything within this session for this webinar. I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear. I've been told that I speak too much, but hey, that's pretty good today. And so let's start off. We're going to start this off in a very, very simple way. Let's introduce this thing called the IELTS, first of all. Okay. What is the IELTS exam? Why do we need to take it? and that kind of thing. The first thing you should understand is that the IELTS exam is a filter. That's what it is. It is a filter. What do we mean by filter? Everybody wants to go somewhere. You want to apply for university somewhere. You want to get a job somewhere. Maybe you want to become a Canadian citizen. So many different things that people want and so many different, needs and all that. Yeah? And so because there is a limited number of seats, whether it's in university or whether it's, wherever you're trying to go, they need a filter. It's not a nice thing to say, but that's the reality. They need a filter. They need some kind of mechanism to say, you can go in, you can't go in. Because if we just leave it up to certification, everybody's certified. So, yeah. I hope you guys understand me, by the way. This will be mostly in English, so yeah. If you guys have any questions, you can type it in the chat and we'll get to the questions later on in the session. There will be a Q&A session at the end, inshallah, so you guys can feel free to ask any question you want. If you can't wait, type it in the chat. So let's start off very quickly, since we know that it's a filter. Let's learn more about this filter first, this filter called the IELTS exam, okay? You notice that I said IELTS exam. That's very important because many people, they mispronounce the word. They call it the IELTS, Imtihan al-IELTS, but it's not called Imtihan al-IELTS. It's called Imtihan al-IELTS. So let me take you guys on a quick journey. We're going into the land of PowerPoint. So, like I said, it is called the IELTS, the first one on top, and not the IELTS. Yalla, why do people call it the IELTS? Well, because in Arabic, باللغة العربية, they call it al-IELTS because the spelling is IELTS, al-IELTS. Okay, so now you understand. Indian people from, like basically the, Southeast Asia, that region, they call it the IELTS. Yani, wala IELTS, wala IELTS, IELTS. Why do they do that? That's just the urf over there. Okay, so yeah. Anyways, let's continue. What are we going to do really quickly? We're going to learn about this thing. Number one, we're going to learn about the IELTS. We're going to do a quick introduction to the IELTS. We're going to talk about the CEFR and the 9-band scale. We're going to talk about that as well. What is it? We'll find out. We're going to give a quick overview of the test, and maybe, we might get into some details depending on the time. And then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. I'm going to be answering a lot of questions during this. So yeah, put that in mind. Put that in mind. Okay. If you have anything that you need to ask right now, give me a few minutes. I might actually come up through it in the actual webinar. So yeah, without further ado, let's start. Now, the IELTS. What is the IELTS? The letters IELTS are actually an acronym. You know what an acronym is? An acronym is when I take the first letters of a couple of words and put them together. Yeah? Like, for example, if I want to say the UN, what is the UN? Well, it's an acronym. The first letter U stands for the word United. And then we have the N, which is the nation, so United Nations. The IELTS is like that. The acronym is International English Language Testing System. The International English Language Testing System. The most important thing here is the S at the end, which is system. Now, why is that important? Well, because it's a system, and as we know from what's happened in the world of mass media and technology and, computing, especially this cloud computing, we have a lot of hackers who have managed to infiltrate some of the biggest websites around the world, right? Well, the only way hackers can actually hack into these huge sites is because they rely on systems. See where I'm going with this? So when we have a system, we always have weaknesses in the system. And that's where people like me come in and, we exploit that actual weakness. And so because it's a system, I'm going to help you guys to exploit that system. That's my job, basically. Now, who owns this thing called the IELTS exam? 3 companies actually own it. And why is that even important? Who cares who owns it, right? Well, we do care, because when you know that one of the owners is Cambridge University, you'll know that they own almost all of the actual exams on the planet when it comes to English. So put that in mind, right? Now, when you have any Cambridge textbooks, whether they're grammar books or anything, they can all help you in this exam. Yeah. Now, this exam is not an English exam. Put that in mind. It's not an English exam. It is a skills and techniques exam. Now, anyways, who else owns it other than Cambridge? Well, the British Council do, and another company called the the IDP. Now, the IDP are the Australian and New Zealand version of the British Council, basically. So we're not going to get into that, but what you should know is that you can take the exam through them. So wherever you are in the world, if you are in any country, except for India, sorry, if any of you is in India, you can't sit for the exam through the British Council because they canceled it this year. It's only the IDP. This is for those who are in India. I don't know where you guys are from, so I'm just putting that information out there. Anywhere else, you can take it, the British Council or IDP in your countries. So let's continue. Now, when it comes to this exam, it is for non-native speakers, meaning people who are L2s. What is an L2? Well, an L2 is a second language speaker of a language. So for most of us, we are L2s. Some of us are L1s. That's okay. Some people sometimes who are L1s, meaning people who speak English as a first language, sometimes they also have to sit for the IELTS exam. I've had many students from America and from Britain sit for the IELTS exam and take my course as well. You might be wondering why? Why do they have to sit for the IELTS, but they're natives? Well, for the simple reason that sometimes people like to travel to other countries to study, and those countries might not be considered to be first language countries. So when you're taking the actual exam, right, they take that into consideration. Let's say I'm going to Cambridge University. Everybody is to go to Cambridge University, Oxford University, these kind of places, right? So let's say I apply there and they look at my actual certificate and it says Malaysia. Now, Malaysia is not a native speaking country, correct? So they're going to require me to write the IELTS. What do I mean by writing the IELTS? It means taking the IELTS, to sit for the IELTS exam. Many different versions of English exist, by the way. So some people say taking the exam, some people say writing the exam. Some people say sit for the exam. This is called dialect. I'll talk about this a little later in the webinar. Let's keep going. Now, what are the different types of English? Well, since English has become an international language, something new has spawned out of nowhere, something called the International Englishes with an S. There's an S now. Englishes, yeah? So we have different varieties. We have the North American, we have the British, we have the New Zealand variety, so many different types of English. The good thing is the IELTS accepts all of them. That I, the letter I in the IELTS stands for international. So hey, the International English Language Testing System. Let's keep going. I hope you guys are following me. So yeah. Now, the exam is only valid for 2 years. 2 years, meaning that if you take the exam right now, you get your score right now, it's only valid for 2 years. After those 2 years, sayonara. It can't work anymore. You will have to resit the exam if you need to prove your IELTS proficiency somewhere else. Sadly, unless there is a loophole, طبعا أكيد, because it's, yeah. The loophole بيبقى is you can prove that you maintained your language. If you can prove it some way, maybe you made videos, maybe you were a lecturer in a university, maybe you wrote a book. If you can find some way to prove that you maintained your level of language or maybe even got higher, then in that case, that 2-year validity might not be the case for you. You might be exempted from that. Now, the exam is taken every week. I know we haven't gotten into the exam list, the reading. I'm giving you information step by step. Yeah, so you know everything you need to know about the exam. So yeah, there are 4 tests a month, depending on which country you're in. I see here in the chat, some people are from Oman, some people, from different countries, Qatar and all that. Welcome to everybody who's watching, especially to those who this is their first time to interact with myself or with Eman Academy. Welcome. Thank you very much for being a part of this webinar. And so, yeah. Now, back to the 4 tests a month, this depends on the country that you're in. It depends on the country that you're in. Some countries only have 1 exam a month. For that, you'll have to go to your own British Council. Just go to their website, whatever that website is, and you can find the test availability. There's another website you can also check, which is the IELTS.org official website that I'm going to show you guys a little later on in the webinar, inshallah. So, who accepts the IELTS? Well, everybody does. In the past, when I started to teach the IELTS like a decade ago, it wasn't accepted in America. So basically, to go to America, you would have had to take something called the TOEFL exam, yeah, which is like an equivalent of the IELTS, basically. The TOEFL, by the way, was the first exam of its kind, came out in the 60s, basically. It was the first exam which was a filter. The first filter exam. So basically people had to sit for it to go to America. But the rest of the world would accept the IELTS because Cambridge has a better pull, you know what I mean, than the TOEFL. But anyways, that's another story. But what happened was a couple of years ago, even the Americans were like, hey, you know what I mean? Everybody's taking this IELTS thing, so let's just do it. It's the most popular exam. How can we not allow people to take it? So, alhamdulillah, people now can take the IELTS. Okay, so let's keep on going. Now, we're moving on to something called the CEFR and the 9-band scale. Very important. So what is the IELTS CEFR, or what is the 9-band scale? We're going to get into that right now. So, okay, yeah. Now, first of all, the CEFR. What is the CEFR? Okay, the CEFR is what we call the Common European Framework of Reference. What is that? Well, imagine you had some kind of a scale for language. That's exactly what the CEFR is. It shows where you are level-wise in the language. So how many levels do we have? Well, we have 6 of them. We have 6 levels. What are they? Well, we have something called A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, and C2. So depending on who you are and what languages you speak, you might be familiar with the CEFR. For example, those of you who have taken German before, you know exactly what the CEFR is, because to go to Germany, you have to be at a level B1, which is B1. Okay. So yeah. Now, what do we mean by A1, A2, B1? What does that mean? Many people ask the question like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to me. A, B, what does it mean? Well, let me break it down in a very simple way. Let's explore the different levels, A, B, and C. The way I like to do that is by using one word, and I like to see the different uses of that one word. Why? Well, because in English we have what we call context. بالعربي سياق. So the English language is full of context. When someone says something to you, you have to decode that message based on the context. There are some words which have many different meanings. The word get, for example, G-E-T, 3 letters, very simple. But if you look at a dictionary, depending on how good that dictionary is, you might find more than 30 different uses for that word get. More than 30, which is an issue, So we call that context, siyaq al-kalam. So let's look at one example. Let's look at the word above. We're going to look at it at an A level, a B level, and a C level. So at an A level, number 1, higher position. So if I say the word above, there's a mirror above the wash basin. You know, when people usually wash their hands, yeah, there's usually a mirror on top. So you wash your hands and you look up. لأن ما أعرف, لكن we do that for some reason. But so that's the physical above, right? As a preposition, physically above. Let's look at it at a B level, which is at a higher level, because above meaning position, everyone knows that. That's the lowest or the most common context. So that's A. At the level B, now it becomes more of like an adverb, adjective sort of thing. It's more figurative and not just directly literal. So if I say above all, I'd like to thank my family. Do I mean above physically? Like physically above us? No, I don't mean that anymore. What I mean now is most importantly. So my context has changed. Same word above, but now I mean something different. So that's at a B level. Let's go to a C level. Here we have no one is above suspicion in this matter. No one is above suspicion. Do we mean that suspicion hina and we are above hina? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that we are all equal. No one is above suspicion. Ma'naha, no one is above, I don't want to say shak or ittiham, but you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, that's no one is above that basically in a court of law. Yeah. So that's the CEFR generally. And this is what it looks like in comparison to the IELTS. The IELTS bases their grading system on what they call the 9-band scale. So we start off from band 0. Technically, it's band 0, which means you didn't show up for the exam. That's what it means. You missed something. That's the band 0. But if you show up and you say Salaam Alaikum, they'll give you at least a band 1. Now, keep on going from band 1. We have increments of 0.5. So, for example, you have band 5, then you have band 5.5, then 6, and then 6.5, and then so on and so forth until band 9, which is the highest you can get in the IELTS. Okay, 9 is the highest. There's no 9.5. Okay, so anyways, looking here on the left-hand side, we can see a quick little like comparison between the CEFR, which is the A all the way to the C's, and the IELTS band scale. So we notice here that right here where it says 5, band 5 in the IELTS, where you're a modest user, that's a B2 level. That's a B2 level. Put in mind, B1 is enough to get you in Germany if you're a German speaker. And German is a very difficult language. As one of my favorite writers used to say in the past, life is too short to learn German. If you're a German speaker, I apologize. Yeah. So anyways, so that's basically it. Most of us need something above a band 5. Why is that? Well, because of competitiveness. I mean, that's just the competition. That's just how it is. If you want to think about the level, the number of people who apply to one position, it's mind-boggling. It's crazy. Not just for university, but also for jobs. Don't forget, the IELTS is also for jobs. And so I'll give you an example. I see some people here saying that they're Sudanese living in the UAE. I'm in the UAE as well. Hello. So, but anyways, I'll give you an example of something which happened here in Dubai a couple of days ago. What happened was there was a company, right? I think it was some airliner. And so they had 500 jobs. And they put out what we call an open call. So they said, everybody, we have 500 positions. We need people, come through. Basic salary, 5,000 dirham. And everybody was like, and they went crazy. And the actual job interviews, which are like an open call means that you can come with your resume and just submit it right there. That's the meaning of open call. So they made the mistake of doing that in public and told everybody about it. So the streets were completely packed, back to back, gridlock. You couldn't go anywhere, just people. That's an issue. Now that's just for a job. That's a job here. Imagine how many people want seating position in a, high level university, something which is well known around the world. You can imagine. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people trying to compete for 2 seats sometimes. So it's an issue. So anyways, they have to have some kind of cutoff. So what the IELTS do is they tell people you have to get above a 6 or a 6.5 for a master's degree, for example, or 5.5 in some cases. But if you're a medical professional, you have to get above a 7 in some cases, sometimes 7.5. Yeah. If you're a linguist, you have to get an 8 or an 8.5. This is how it is. So different jobs have different band scales. Okay. Let us know what band you guys need in the chat. Okay. So last thing about the CEFR and the band scale, there is no pass or fail. There is no pass or fail in the IELTS exam at all. So if you get a band 5, for example, it doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you might not have gotten the band that you want. So yeah, you can always retake the exam. للأسف, to be very, very honest, the retake is pretty high up there. It is pretty high, meaning people usually take the exam sometimes 5-6 times. So it's an issue. It is an issue. To get out of that, to get out of retaking the exam 5-6 times, I recommend that you take a very good IELTS course. So yeah, take a very good IELTS course, and inshallah you won't take the exam 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So yeah, let's keep on going. Let's go into the test format, the IELTS test format. What do we need to know about the IELTS? Bismillah. This is where we go into the water, yeah? So number one, there are 2 types of IELTS exams. I just did this, so that means like there's 4. No, what I meant to do was like 2, but both fingers, yeah? So 2. There are only 2 IELTS exams. Number 1, we have the academic IELTS exam, and we have number 2, the general training IELTS exam. What do we have to know about these 2? Well, the thing you have to know is that they don't work for each other. Meaning, if you are required to sit for the academic exam, you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot use it for something which is general training. That's sad, but it happens. As the Turks like to say, qadar. That's how life is. So let's talk about these 2. Number 1, the academic exam. Who needs it? The academic exam is used for 2 purposes. Again, with the 2s. 2 purposes, yeah? Those 2 purposes are, number 1, you have a seat in some university somewhere you're trying to apply to. Maybe you're trying to get into a bachelor's degree program, a master's degree program, maybe even a PhD. You never know. So for that, you'll need the IELTS academic, okay? The IELTS academic. And number two, you're trying to get a job. Some jobs require proof of language. So yeah, I see that there are people raising their hands. That's okay. Maybe someone is trying out the Zoom app, but that's okay. If you have any questions, you can always just leave them towards the end, and we will answer all of them. Okay, we'll answer all of the questions, inshallah. So let's keep going. So those are the 2 reasons. Number 1, admission into a university, and number 2, getting a job. Now, what about the general training exam? Well, for the general training exam, we have one reason, and that is trying to immigrate, trying to migrate to another country. Migrate or immigrate, طبعا. Yeah, migrate means movement. Migration, it means movement in general. Immigrate means going into some place. Emigrate means leaving some place. The difference بيبقى في موضوع الإي في البداية, I في البداية. So yeah, that's the difference. So migration, meaning movement in general, is also something we require the IELTS for. There are some countries which are popular, very, very popular for their citizenship programs. Of course, I'm speaking about Canada as well as Australia. Yeah, everybody wants to go to the land down under. I don't know why. It's very hot there. And I think everything in Australia can kill you. I apologize to all the Australians who are watching. I love Australian people. So, but yeah, in reality, too many poisonous things there. So yeah, let's keep on going. Anyways, so, and venomous, big difference. But anyways, I hope nobody's from Australia in this webinar. So yeah, the Aussies get angry. Let's keep going. Now, when it comes to these 2 exams, the academic and the general training, there is something you have to know. There are also 2 different types of exams, meaning 2 options of taking the exams. There is a paper-based exam where you actually get a piece of paper, you sit down and you have to actually write down your answers on a sheet of paper. Then we have something called the computer delivered, which is like a laptop situation where you actually go and sit down at a PC in the test center and you sit for the exam. Okay, so yeah. There are 4 exams in the IELTS. There are 4 exams. Why are there 4 exams? Shouldn't it be just 1 exam? Yes, it should be 1, but qadar. What happens is you have to sit for 4 exams because there are 4 skills in English or any language. So that back to that CEFR, we have 4 skills. Now we can do this. 4. Yeah. Number 1, we have something called the listening skill, which is basically what you're doing right now, listening to me speak. I am encoding information into some kind of a language. I'm creating sounds, yeah? and that sound is being dispatched, or it's basically leaving me, is being produced by me, and is being decoded by you. Your ears are picking up these weird sounds, and your brain is translating that into words, and you're recognizing certain sounds and things that come together, and then that's language. Basically, this is my very, very quick version of linguistics. Yeah, Noam Chomsky will be very proud, taban, but hey, life. So that's listening. Number 2, we have speaking. Okay, so you guys are decoding me, but I'm giving information to you. So I'm speaking, you're listening. I'm producing, you're receiving. Okay, then we have another productive skill, which we call another receptive skill called reading, where what you're doing right now, if you look at the screen and you see it says listening, speaking, reading, and writing, that's reading. Okay, that's what you're doing right now. That's getting information through, visual faculties. And last but not least, everybody's favorite, the writing, which is another productive skill. So speaking and writing are productive, you produce information. Listening and reading are receptive, you receive information. The listening exam and the speaking exam are the same for everybody. They're the same for everybody. Regardless of whether you're taking the academic or the general training, you will have the same exam, listening and speaking. For those who are wondering, let's say if I go back one step, maybe someone had in mind, wait a minute, I need the academic and I want to go to Canada. What if I have to take both? Can I take both exams? The answer is yes, you can take both exams. Can you take them in the same session? No. You cannot take them in the same session. So you'll take the academic exam today, wait till next week, take the general training. That's how you're going to have to do that if you wish. That's another story. Now, moving on. There is a separate reading exam and a separate writing exam for both the academic and the general training. Why is that? Well, there are many different uses of English. Let's be real. Some people need English for university and some people need it for immigration. Yeah? So they can't expect a person going to university to have the same level of language as somebody who is just trying to become a citizen. Maybe I'm moving because I want to have a better life. Maybe I've always wanted to live in a place where there was sun, and I grew up in a place where it was mostly rain. So I want to move. It happens. Whatever your reasons are, there's reasons. So for that, they test us differently. They give us a different exam. Now, let's move on. We'll get into that a little later. The listening exam is technically the most difficult exam that we have in the IELTS. It's technically the most difficult because it has the most number of skills that we have to go through, which are, of course, number 1, listening, number 2, reading, and number 3, writing. All 3 are going to be done at the same time. Okay? So put that in mind. All 3 are going to be done at the same time. That's why I consider it to be the most difficult. It's not just me. The IELTS as well, they consider it to be the most difficult as well. That's why it is the first exam you're going to sit for on the actual test day. It's the first physical exam you will take. The IELTS, as Cambridge, they think it's the most difficult. That's why they put it as the first one. Because what happens in the beginning? You're scared, you're tense, you're taking the exam, and then you're focusing and you're listening and you're reading and you're writing and you're, oh my God. And then the exam is over. You're like, whew. By this time, adrenaline is pumping. You're tired. There's fatigue. What happens? You can't take something, stressful. So they give you something a little akhaffa, which is the reading exam right after the listening exam. And then you do the reading exam. You get 1 hour to complete that. And that's great. And then what happens? Now you're tired, shadid, yeah, because you can't take food in the exam with you, unless you have a medical condition. That's another story. I'll talk about that in a second, about different conditions. Yeah. So, anyways, there are cases where you could take food in, but I'll talk about that in a while. So anyways, so you're doing the reading exam and you're tired now. Then they give you the easiest exam right after, and that is the writing exam, which is the easiest exam in the IELTS. Some people are going to be like, oh my God, who am I? If it's not, the writing is terrible. No, it's not. Writing is the easiest exam. It literally is the easiest exam. People just don't know how to write. That's just the reality. I'm sorry. People don't know how to write. People think they know how to write. There's a big difference between creative writing and academic writing. Okay, I don't mean academic as in academic IELTS. No, I mean like real writing based on rules. يعني واحد زائد واحد يساوي, you know, people usually think that واحد زائد واحد يساوي 17. It's like that's not the case. They write like that. 1 plus 1 equals 17. That's how they write, and they think I should get a band. But you're not going to get a band because they're looking for things which are more structured. They're looking for structure. They want you to show off structure. So for that, you have to show off structure. And of course, we can learn how to do this in a good IELTS preparation course. Hint, hint, hint. Not so subtle hint. And we have a course. Okay, we'll talk about the course later, inshallah, for those who are interested. So let's continue. The last exam, or might be the first exam, is the speaking. What do I mean? It might be the first exam. The speaking exam floats outside of the body of listening, reading, and writing. Those three, the listening, reading, and writing, are always together. Meaning, قعدت, Bismillah, listening, بعدك, reading, بعدك, writing. Always in this order. Sabta, not gonna change. The speaking exam could be done a day before these three, could be done a day after. It could be done the same day. It could be done 1 week before, 1 week after. That's what I mean by the speaking is floating. It depends on the examiners. Some cities don't have that many examiners, IELTS speaking examiners. So what they do is they have to divide the people who are, who applied to whatever number of examiners they have. And they have rules of how many exams the examiner can take in a day, many different things that come into play for الموضوع. So that's another story. This again depends on the country that you are in. Some countries, mashallah, have many test centers. It's not just the British Council and the IDP. Some companies have international houses. Depending on your country, you might know what I'm talking about, or you might not know what I'm talking about. But these are things that you can easily Google, IELTS test dates. And like I said, you can go to IELTS.org. You can find out how many centers there are in your country. So it's no problem there. No problem there. Okay, I see someone's mentioning about the food. Okay, so should I have to eat before the exam? Okay, I'm gonna talk about that because I mentioned it a few seconds ago about the food. If you have a medical condition which requires some level of sustenance, meaning food, whether you're like a hypoglycemic or that kind of thing, maybe you have diabetes, and you need to have some kind of nutrients during a stressful period, or for whatever reason you need to eat something, you can make it aware. You can make the British Council aware of your situation beforehand. Tell them beforehand that I have XYZ and I need certain things to be done for me. I need to have food with me. I need to have a Snickers bar, for example. Some people have to go in with sweets so that their blood sugar stays high. Whatever your case might be, you might be visually impaired. Maybe you're blind, for example. That's visually impaired. And you might request an exam which is done in Braille. So Braille is, of course, Braille. It's like little bumps on the piece of paper where people who cannot see, they can just move their fingers and they can read it. Some people can't read Braille. Some people need someone to actually read something to them. So they do that as well. What else? So many different things. So it depends. I've had students who have issues with their listening. So they have, they've had special speakers, headsets. If you have like a, one of those earpieces, you can use that as well. So many different things. Okay, so it's changing. It's ever changing. But yeah, quickly, if anybody is thinking, should they take the paper or the computer? I honestly recommend the computer for many, many different reasons. Because it's faster, number one, and you get the results faster. Because, okay. So when you're taking the actual exam, you have the option of choosing paper or computer delivered. Same price. But based on availability, it might be a little different. So for some countries, the computer delivered is always the most efficient one, and it's usually every week in some countries. This depends on your country, so I'm not going to get into that right now. Let's keep going. Please, any questions, put them in the chat, okay? And so, yeah, let's keep going. Let's talk about this exam. Listening. First exam we're going to get, technically speaking. It's approximately 30 minutes long, and they give us 10 extra minutes to transfer our answers from the question paper to the answer sheet. That is if you are doing the actual paper based. If you're doing the paper based, you're going to get 10 extra minutes to transfer your answers from that to the answer sheet. So let's look at the difference. Let's look at the difference, shall we? Let me take you guys on a quick ride to, in IELTS land. And 1 second. We're going to look at the different exams. Okay, that should be fun. That should be fun. I think it should be fun. So let's go and IELTS. Yeah. Ta-da. Welcome to the IELTS.org website. This is what it looks like. IELTS, NAS IELTS. Haha. Charaftu. So let's look at what they actually look like. Let's look at the computer delivered. Let's look at the computer delivered. For that, we can come here for where it says for test takers, hover down to sample test questions. And then you click. And that'll take you here to sample test questions. Ta-da! Everything down here will be a sample for the paper-based, meaning the listening and then the reading and the writing and all that. If you want to get the reading, you'll have to hover to where it says reading. Sorry. So you can click on it if you wish, and you get all the questions for the reading exam. So you can check them out. There's a lot of different task types, but yeah, and so on. But for now, I'm going to show you guys the computer delivered one. First, I can show you the paper-based one later. It's not a problem. Okay, so let's look at the listening exam, for example. Since we're talking about the listening exam, let's look at, we have the multiple choice, put that on the side, and then we'll look at, diagram labeling, put that on the side, and note completion. Very good. This will give us an idea of the different ways of writing answers. Now, for those of you who've never seen this before, this is the general format that you're going to find in the exam. There is going to be an audio, of course. I'm not going to be playing the audio for you. But anyways, let's continue. You will get a test to see how, is the sound good for you. On the top right-hand side, you will have a slider where you can actually change your volume. You know what? I know there's some people who want to hear. So 1 second. Let me reshare and I'll let you guys hear it. So yeah, I'm a nice guy. Wallahi, mashallah, tabarakallah alayhi. Allahumma barik. So anyways, so here we are, and now you should be able to hear it. If I click play sound, it might be a little loud. I apologize.
Please change the volume using the bar in the top right corner. Click continue when you hear the sound clearly.
Okay, so that's basically what it sounds like. I'm going to hit continue, giving me information about the test. It says here the test is approximately 30 minutes. That's what I just said. So it's 30 minutes, yeah? But they give you 10 extra minutes to transfer your answers from the question paper to the answer sheet. But what if I'm not using an answer sheet? For those who are taking the computer delivered, you are not going to be getting that 10 extra minutes. Malish. It happens. What you're going to do is you're going to get answers where you can directly click onto the forms. For example, here we have one word. The audio is going to play, by the way. I'll give it a second. But it does usually just load. Anyways, it's going to probably cut me off and I'm going to mute it. But I'm going to continue talking. So here it says complete the notes, write one word and or number. So here we have words. So you can write anything you want. Ta-da, anything. And it's case sensitive, by the way. So that means if you're supposed to write the answer, which is anything, but it's not a proper noun, meaning it shouldn't be capitalized, then you shouldn't. See, the audio. Let it call.
348831.
Oh, hello. I'm calling about your advertisement in the local paper.
Okay, so that's basically what the audio sounds like. I told you it was going to come in. So anyways, here, like I said about the case sensitivity, if it's supposed to be a proper noun, you have to capitalize it. If it's not a proper noun, you have to make it small. Yeah, so that's what happens. There is an option for those of us who don't want to get into the whole large and small thing. You can just basically hit caps lock and you can make everything large. Yeah, everything is going to be capitalized. You can do that. It is completely accepted in the IELTS. But once you hit caps lock, don't uncaps lock it. Don't do that. So let's say, for example, you're trying to write the word large like this, and you're used to the whole shift and L. So you do that in the beginning and you like shift L. So now the first letter is small and the rest of the word is large. You're not going to do that. Yeah, it's not going to work. So, yeah. So that's one word. The maximum is 3 words and or number. Let's move on to something else. Let's go to multiple choice. We just saw something which involved words. So with multiple choice, as you know, it's A, B, C, D. So here you have the options already laid out. So let's say, for example, you read the first question, you're waiting for the answer, you hear the audio says this, and then the correct answer is number 2, for example. So you click right here in number 2, and then you keep on going. This is considered ABC, yeah? So if you click it, there it is, you keep on going. Question number 2 is right here. You get into that, you answer your thing. Maybe it's A. You're done. You go to the next one. Maybe it's C. Now you're done. You go to the next task type. All of this will be in one window, by the way. I'm just jumping around because these are just samples. These are just samples. One last example, which might scare some people. This is a diagram. Ta-da! So here we have a diagram. Okay, so we have letters A, B, C, D, E, all the way to H. Now, what we do is we're going to listen to the audio, and the audio is going to say, do this, do that, and that kind of thing. We're going to pay attention.
All right. Those of you who want to go on the ride.
There's the audio. So, sorry about that. And so you basically look at the things that you're supposed to focus on. Here it says quilt shop. So if I leave this out and I listen to the audio, they're going to mention something about the quilt shop somewhere near some street. Okay? So then I'm supposed to say whether it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that kind of thing. So
They're usually made from patches of leftover material. They make wonderful gifts. But let me warn you, it will be hard to leave that shop, so you may want to save that for last. The next street up Main is Ash Street.
So we missed the audio for the quilt shop, and now it's a second location.
Worth a look. You'll be amazed at the variety of handmade crafts there. On Main Street, in the middle of...
So you see here, he's talking about Main Street, and he's talking about the middle of Main Street, and he's going to be using words which are, description-based words like, oh, turn left on the right-hand side, north of this place, right behind this place, in front of this place. These are words that we're going to have to focus on in certain questions in the IELTS. So this is the listening exam, okay? This is the listening exam. Let's go to the test format. So the listening exam is 30 minutes long. I'm just going to continue off the website here. Yeah. So it's 30 minutes long. Like I said, you get 10 minutes to go to the answer sheet to transfer your answers if you're doing the paper based. Now, something also very important to know, you have 4 parts in this exam. These 4 parts in the exam are, number 1, you get what we call a dialogue. Dialogue means you have 2 people speaking to each other and you have to pick out who is giving you the information. That's the first part. There are 10 questions in this part. The second part has also 10 questions. Actually, they all have 10 questions. Every part has 10 questions. You'll get a monologue, meaning one person is going to be speaking. And your job is to answer questions based on that person's speech. Now, part 1 and part 2 are going to be more about general topics, things that everybody has experienced, something normal. For example, part 1 can be like a transaction between me and a hotel receptionist. Let's say I'm trying to book a hotel, and so I make a phone call and I say, okay, I want to book a room for 5 people. What options do you have? And so the receptionist will tell me, oh, our first option is X, then we have Y, and this costs this, and da-da-da. And you're supposed to pick up that information and answer questions accordingly. Yeah? So it's not difficult. It's not difficult. It can be done. Second part, Gulna, it's going to be like a person giving you some information. One person speaking about a general topic. It might even be a radio DJ, like, a host in a radio program giving you information about, something on the radio. So that's part 1 and part 2. Now, part 3 and part 4 are a little more difficult. These are more academic in nature. I don't mean academic IELTS. I mean they're more academic meaning they're talking about something to do with university. So imagine In part 3, we have a dialogue. So we have minimum 2 people, maximum 4 people. Malish, it's not my exam. Anyways, 4 people speaking at the same time, not at once, of course, alhamdulillah, but everyone's going to have their turn. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to decode that information. You're going to have to decode that information and answer questions. And so, okay. Oh, we don't have that much time left, so let's keep on going. Let's just jump to the reading. What is in the reading exam? The reading exam is where I'm going to get 3 long passages, depending on which exam you're taking, the academic or the general training. You're going to get 3 long passages, and you're going to have to answer questions based off of that. Okay? Let me just quickly show you guys what that looks like. Academic reading. And let's say we have something simple. Let's do something simple. Something simple. Matching headings. Yes. For those of you who know what the IELTS exam is, you'll know why I'm laughing. For those who don't know what the exam is, matching headings is not simple. It's simple. It's simple. I'm just joking. Anyways, so let's keep on going. Now, start test. There's no audio here. You notice that there's going to be text on one side. Here we have where it says 4 and 3 and 2. These are the numbers of the paragraphs. It's usually not 4, 3, and 2. It's usually A, B, C, usually. But yeah. So here you have 1. Here, there's more than 1 paragraph, meaning it's not going to be a paragraph. It's going to be what we call a section. So section 1, and then section 2, and then section 3. The difference between the word section and the word paragraph is that sections have more than 1 paragraph. And then here you can choose your answers and blah, blah, blah. You can say that section 1 is this and that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not going to get into this too deep because I know we only have like a few minutes left. I apologize. But anyways, let's continue. The reading exam has 40 questions, the same as the listening exam. In those 40 questions, each question is worth 1 mark. There's no question more important than any other question, so please go in order. Yeah. Next, we have the writing exam. The writing exam has 2 questions. The whole exam is 1 hour long, and it comes as the 3rd exam. So the first one, you have 30 minutes for the listening, followed by 1 hour for the reading, which has 40 questions. Then you have another hour to answer 2 questions. These 2 questions are called writing task 1 and writing task 2. Very original names, طبعا. Yeah. So in the writing task 1 and writing task 2, you're going to get, for task 1, some kind of graph, some kind of visual representation of information that you have to translate into words. That's what you're going to get. But if you're sitting for the general training, then your writing task 1 is going to be different. It's going to be a letter. So let's look at the academic writing task 1. Let's look at what that looks like. Open up. We'll give it a second to load. Yes, because of the zoom and all of that, it might take a second. There it is. So details correct. Yes, thank you very much. Start test. Ta-da. Here we have a graph. This is what we call a bar graph. Yep. And so we have information on the x-axis, on the y-axis, and we have dates, 1990, 2010. On top here, we have our actual prompt, our information that we have to go through. Here we have some questions that we have to answer as well. And then we have, of course, a word limit. We have a minimum, no maximum. Minimum, 150 words. You cannot go below. Yeah. So on the right-hand side, you see that we have a nice little box. And we have a word counter at the bottom. So if I say, hello world. Oh, I'm still on caps lock. Haha, I said this earlier. Don't forget you're on caps lock. So hello world. Okay. For any computer people, you know what I just did. So anyways, yeah, here you see it says 2 words. You see that? But if I do this, like anti-clockwise, it's going to register as 1 word only. Do you see that? Why? Because hyphenated words are considered to be 1 word. If I get rid of the hyphen, it's going to become 2 words. You see that? Now it's 4 words. Ta-da, magic. Now, it's very important to put in mind that when you are writing, spelling counts, grammar counts, sentence structure counts, paragraphing, signposting, all of these things. If you don't know any of these things, join an IELTS course. Join an IELTS course. So let's keep on going. My marketing is right in the, it's direct. I mean, let's keep on going. Let's go to the next one. Last but not least, we have the speaking exam. What is the speaking exam? The speaking exam is where we are going to have an interview with an examiner, one-on-one. Yep, one-on-one. Oh, wait a minute. Fast track, go back. I didn't say part 2. What is task 2? Sorry. Task 2 in the writing exam is an essay. You have to write an essay. What you just saw, the diagram, that's task 1. Task 2 is an essay. Very, very sorry. And we do have separate videos for essays and all that. We'll be doing live sessions talking about these in details. So don't forget to like the Eman Academy Facebook page, as well as the IELTS with MIAM Facebook page. Don't forget to like, yes, follow, share, tell your friends, all of that. And you get, access to our other information as well. Let's keep on going. So the speaking exam is an interview between you and an examiner. It's like 15 minutes long in total. Because of COVID, some countries are doing a Zoom meeting. It's not face-to-face anymore. It's a Zoom meeting. Even though when you register, they'll tell you that it's a face-to-face meeting. That's not true. It's going to be on Zoom. You're going to go to the center. You're going to sit down in front of a PC with a nice little camera, and you're going to talk to an examiner who is in the next room, but because of COVID, they don't want you guys sitting next to each other. So, but there are some countries where it's done face-to-face. Depending on your country, please find out from your British Council or your IDP website. Now, there are 3 parts here, which we call part 1, part 2, and part 3. Very original names. Part 1 is an interview where you get general questions about yourself. It's 5 minutes long. Yes, it is timed and it is recorded. Part 2 is called the long turn or the long run, where you get 1 topic and like 3 bullet points and 1 command at the end. And you have to, I'll explain this in the course when you guys, by then. Anyways, so you get these questions that you have to answer. You get 1 minute to prepare. They give you a piece of paper and a pencil to write your ideas down. And then they give you 2 minutes to talk nonstop. So you're going to give a speech. So might be, easy for some, very difficult for others. It happens. But when that is done, they'll take back the paper that you wrote your notes on. They'll take back whatever they give you, and then you start part 3, where it's going to be more opinionated, where they're going to be asking you direct questions about different things. So yeah. Anyways, I hope that basically puts everything together in a nutshell. I apologize, but yeah. We'll have a Q&A session right now. I see time is up. I apologize tremendously. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. And yeah, and we'll answer.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much, Muhammad. This was really, really good. I actually enjoyed this. I was actually just sitting here listening to you. And I just enjoyed everything that you said. You know how you have that way of making things really, really light and funny. And I think everybody's been saying that you're funny, which is, I think it's an important thing for an IELTS teacher, because it's such a intense subject, So making things light is very good. All right, everybody. So we are going to be we're going to stop our recording right now, and then we're going to have Q&A for everyone who wants to ask a question. You can unmute yourself and you can introduce yourself, and you can wait. Don't go, okay? Wait until we tell you about our IELTS class. Mohammed's been trying to advertise it in the middle, but now we're going to advertise it خلاص, at the end. But don't go anywhere, and we're going to stop the recording right now. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and don't forget to like and share, and do what you got to do.
Hello there. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comment section, and I'll get to them as soon as possible. And as always, if you're looking for an IELTS course, whether it's a private one-on-one class or a group course, just reach out. My information is in my bio. Take care. Have fun. Bye.